Hi, welcome. Hi, hi. Hello, welcome to Mind Unfiltered. I felt like doing a little bit of story time today to sort of explain some of my symptoms that I've been going through sort of all through life. Because I feel like I finally came up with a conclusion as to what is possibly causing a lot of the things that I'm dealing with. I have no idea what the path is to manage it or deal with it, but it's been a really, really long few years, and I finally have some answers. I still feel like there's got to be more explanation. But anyway, let's get to it. So let's start from like when I was a child. I would say, the noticeable signs were probably when I was around 8 years old. I started getting migraines in the side of my head. But at the time, I didn't know what they were. Like, I could feel that there was a strain and a pain there, but I couldn't understand, and I couldn't express to anybody that I was having this because I didn't know what it was. I was at school. I was sitting on one of the computers. It was an old school one, really sort of bad image. And if you've got sensitive eyes, you'll know that there's like a fuzziness and a sort of jumpiness about it, and kind of flickering. And all of a sudden, I just totally lost my vision. All I could see was like white, bright light, like it was, well, like this light that I've got in front of me, but that's all I could see. Got taken to hospital. I was throwing up like major time. Like anything that I had for lunch, that was no longer in my stomach. And obviously I was too young. I didn't really know what the diagnosis was, but I'm assuming it was some sort of migraine triggered by aura and lights and sensitivity. Possibly a few months later, when my mum felt like it was safe to let me go on a computer again, it happened again. And this was a totally different computer. It didn't happen for as long though, because the first time, I think it was about 2 days it took for my eyesight to return. But the next time it was only like a day, because obviously I noticed it instantly. Like I could feel that my eyes were losing the vision when I was on the computer. So I actually did manage to take myself away from it quick enough, but I still lost my sight for a good day. And after that, I noticed that any kind of flashing light was giving me like a weird sensation in my brain. And I still don't really know how to explain it, but hopefully as this goes on, it will make sense. So how do I explain it? So imagine like you're on a bus or you're in a car and you're going quite fast, and say like on the sides of the road you've got lots of trees, and when the sun comes through those trees, especially at a speed, it feels like it's flashing. So after that incident where I lost my vision, every time that would happen, I'd be on a bus and lights, the sun would flicker. I would have what I would used to call a mini blackout. Like I'd sort of jump, and then I'd kind of forget where I was for like a split second, and it could happen continuously. Obviously, as I got older, I learned to wear sunglasses and a hat, or just look away, try and cover my eyes as much as possible to avoid that from happening. Sometimes it was difficult though, and it would just happen anyway. So obviously I guess I narrowed that down to just developing like a really, really sensitivity to light, and it would trigger a migraine, but I still just never knew what it was. Obviously a part of me would tell myself that it was like an epilepsy or something like that. Okay, so that was sort of something that was prominent during my teenage years. The reaction to flashing lights, getting migraines, couldn't really be on a laptop or watch TV for too long because it would give me a migraine. Like I had to have things in a certain light tone, and I still do. I still have to have warm light rather than blue light. And it seemed like everything was fine. Like I was developing, like some strange things like aches throughout my body. I don't know if this is connected or not, but I had an incident in college, where my hand, like one of my fingers just like went really, really swollen. I also had a few years where I was like constantly sick every day, and I had no idea why. I had doctors going, "Are you sure you're not pregnant?" What, for 3 whole years? I've been pregnant for 3 years, apparently. I don't know. So I still never really figured that out. I mean, I think they put that down to a stomach migraine. Now, I didn't know that, and obviously that would have made some sort of sense because obviously everything is sort of connected. Like your receptors to your brain, there are some in your stomach, so it would have made some sense. Okay. But they never really told me that that's what they diagnosed it as. They just put it on my notes, and back then we didn't really have the same kind of access as we do now. So yeah, that was quite a trying time. I did also develop a little bit of an eating disorder during that time because I just couldn't stomach anything. And I kind of lost a lot of weight because I wasn't eating. And that then created quite a psychological thing. I'd never been so small. I'd always been quite a chunky person. So to lose all that weight in such a short amount of time, it did create a very, very bad habit with eating. But that might be another topic for a different video. But the sickness actually will hopefully tie in when I round all this up at the end. But next, I want to talk about when I was 18, and I had a lot of stuff going on in my life. A lot of stresses, a lot of things going on, and you'd think like 18, what have you got to stress about at 18? Well, obviously to me it was quite a lot, and something started happening sort of towards the end of the year. What year would have that been? 20, maybe 2014. And I couldn't feel my legs. I couldn't walk straight. My brain was like forgetting how to kind of talk properly. And the whole thing was really odd. And if I'm honest with you, it felt like I was having a stroke. But when I got to the hospital, they had no idea what it was. Someone did say that maybe it was something to do with my mental health, like I'd had like an extreme panic attack. But But it didn't feel like a panic attack. I mean, there was part of me panicking about the situation, but the actual thing didn't feel like a panic attack. It felt like my body was literally just giving up and shutting down, even to the point where when I'd got home, I'd had a sleep the next day, my brain was so foggy, I developed a stutter. So maybe it was like a really extreme nervous breakdown, but hey, this also links in with what I feel is actually going on here. For it to be a nervous breakdown, your nerves would actually have to be involved, right? So it will all make sense, hopefully. So I came out of that thinking, what the hell was that? That was strange. And from that point, I developed those brain shocks that I would have, or mini blackouts that I'd have on the bus. I started having them constantly, but usually at night time before I try and go to sleep. They were happening so regularly to the point where one week I just didn't sleep for about 4 days because I was actually terrified to try and fall asleep, because every time I tried, I would start to, I don't even know. I for some reason, I just didn't go to the doctors. I don't know if it's because I built like a little bit of a negative view on the doctors, because I felt like every time I'd been as a teenager, they were just kind of, there's nothing wrong, or telling me that I'm pregnant when I'm not. And I feel like I just didn't develop a very good trust with them. So I think like a part of me just didn't go to see someone, which was obviously crazy. I should have. But then something else started happening. I started slowly developing pains across my body. They would sort of be randomized, like it would be a week of pain and then not any pain for a while. I think even back then, I did try and go and get help for those sorts of things, because I was like, what is this? I'm too young to be feeling stuff like this. They never found anything. They put me through some tests. But then I obviously got pregnant and I had my daughter, and that was quite a traumatic experience, the labour. It was a little bit much I think it was too much for my body to handle. Again, this will all make sense when I tie this together. I just think it put my body into total shock. And I think it triggered off fibromyalgia. It is a very common thing. However, I feel like from doing a little bit of research that the fibromyalgia actually was always there. It was just slowly getting worse and worse. And it just took that one extreme trauma to basically make it set in and then never go away. So one of the earliest signs for fibromyalgia is feeling constantly sick when you're a teenager with no real cause for it. So obviously when I realised that, I was like, oh my gosh, everything in regards to that finally makes some sense. But then when I was in recovery, because I ended up having a C-section, which obviously that in itself is also quite traumatic for a body that is already quite sensitive. That's quite an extreme surgery to go through. I developed something called trigeminal neuralgia, which is like a pain where the trigeminal nerve connects from the brain to the face, and then obviously it connects down the neck as well. I lost a couple of teeth because of it. One did actually break, but the other one, this side it was that broke, but this one was connected to the trigeminal neuralgia. You see, because when you have a flare up, it can make your teeth feel like they're in constant agony. And I thought that I had a tooth there that was in constant agony. And I was like, you need to take this out. I went to an emergency dentist. They didn't think twice. They just took it out. And that didn't help at all. In fact, I still, even though the tooth isn't there, I still have the same exact pain when I have a flare up. So it didn't help. It was just what was connected to the nerve. And when it's really bad flare up, it'll take over the whole of my face, like along here. It'll cause twitching, eye watering, eye twitching. Sometimes it gets so bad that the face actually kind of goes into, I don't want to call it paralyzed, but kind of extremely tired, where it kind of droop for a little while. So yeah, obviously that wasn't fun. I like to explain to people, like, I'm going to do it on this side because I don't have it on this side. Imagine the constant feeling of it, because it's always there. It never actually goes away fully, not for me anyway. I could say that it's kind of in remission when it's at this point, but it feels like it's never really gone. And I have to be very careful to not trigger it. I can't hit my face, or sometimes I can't brush properly right up there because it will trigger. But anyway, sorry. It feels like someone is just like this, just proper like digging in like all the time. That is the constant feeling I have. Like there's like it's trapped, like it's stuck, and there's just a squeeze on it all the time. And obviously, like I say, if it gets triggered, it will send miss signals throughout my face. And it can also be triggered if I've got like a knot or anything in my shoulder. That can then trigger that as well. But it was only recently that I realised that actually trigeminal neuralgia is extreme. It's extreme. Brain fart. No. Yeah, it's only up until recently that I realised that trigeminal neuralgia is connected with migraine disorders, which obviously I've been dealing with since I was a child. And apparently it is much more likely that later on in your life that you will actually develop trigeminal neuralgia, because it is actually the nerve that triggers migraines. So I may have potentially had neuralgia for a very long time, but it's since I had my daughter that it became so flared up that there's not a lot I can do about it. So yeah, there's a connection there, right? I then, sort of 2 years ago, I started working, or maybe 3 years ago now, I started working as a passenger assistant along with children, and they were bringing in coughs and colds like constantly into the car. And I caught the first one, and it took me quite a while to get over it. It was a really bad one, and I hadn't had one like that for a while. I then started getting colds pretty much every month. Basically, I would have one, just about get over one, and then get another one. And it was just constant for about a year. I then got one that was so bad that my body ended up getting a rash called, I will put it on the screen somewhere because I don't know how to say it, but I got this rash. And when I went to the doctors about that, she said, your body's quite clearly under a lot of stress, and your immune system has weakened, meaning that the body is actually trying to find different methods to expel the virus. which, I thought that was pretty cool, actually. I was like, well, the body's pretty cool that it does that. But obviously having a huge rash over the body was not very fun. The only advice that she gave me was try not to get sick anymore. I was like, that's a little bit difficult when you're in a confined space with children that are always sick. But anyway, that then carried on for a while. I kept getting ill very often, finding it hard to get over the illnesses. I then started getting frequent infections, like sort of in my nose and in my mouth and just like on my skin, just random bits on my nails and stuff. And I'd never used to have that sort of thing. It was taking me a little while to actually heal from them. So I decided sort of about a year ago now, that I was going to write down every single thing that I've been experiencing over the last sort of 6 years. Not beforehand, I just wanted to do sort of like a 6-year thing of like when everything got worse, everything just got really bad. And I went into the doctors and I said, can you read this for me? Because I find it hard to actually communicate sometimes in the doctors due to my ADHD. I really find that hard. That also links in with all of this as well, by the way. So I will get onto that bit in a minute. So I asked him to just read all of the symptoms. He then asked me at the end, he was like, have you done any research on this? And I was like, yeah, because it's been hard to get other GPs to actually listen to me. It's like, they just were like, no, you're too young for anything like that. We can't find anything even when we do tests. So there's nothing wrong. But I just want to remind you and myself as well that we know our body's better than anybody. And if something's not feeling right, then just keep pestering, because you have to, because how do they know that they haven't done all the tests and whatever? So he asks me, from the research that I had done, he was like, what do you suspect? So I said, the top 3 that always come up in regards to all the symptoms that I have is fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome / ME, and then Hashimoto's. So he decided to put me in for a test for the Hashimoto's, and I didn't have that, which was great because it felt like, I was like, oh God, please don't let me have that. But he did agree that from all of my symptoms that fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome / ME was highly likely. So what did he want me to do? So I had to do a few other blood tests just to definitely rule out every single possibility of any other autoimmune disease. So I did that. I then moved into this house, and then I found different GP. And on the first visit, I just said that I want to carry on this investigation. It needs to be done. So he sent me straight to a fibromyalgia specialist. I ended up not actually ever seeing them because just by looking at my symptoms, they were able to basically say, like, yeah, this is standard fibromyalgia. I still don't want to just go and say that that's what I've got, but I guess it gives it some sort of name to go by for now. Because, it explains the pains, it explains the digestive issues, it explains a lot of my hair brittleness, nervous system issues. What it does is it just identifies that there is an issue there, and that's all I care about at the moment. There is still a long road, I think. But then we done that, and then I went and spoke to a slightly different GP in the same practice, but he also wanted me to make sure that it wasn't chronic fatigue or the both, or he just wanted me to make sure that I could rule them all out. So he referred me, and a couple of months, probably about 2 months ago, I'd say, I had the phone call and spoke to her, and she'd done the questionnaire of all the things, and she ended up diagnosing me with chronic fatigue / ME combined with ADHD, because apparently ADHD with chronic fatigue, it can create like a different type. I need to look into that a little bit more, to be honest. But okay, so now I would like to talk about sort of like the ADHD path and how I got there. I'll probably do something like this for a different video as well, but obviously this does connect with my other symptoms. So I started realizing that I might have ADHD a couple of years ago. No, more than that. So around when TikTok was quite big because of COVID, I discovered Rory, or ADHD Love, the channel, and she done sort of like a put a finger down challenge. She didn't say what it was, but she done this put a finger down challenge, and by like the number 10, all my fingers were down. And at the end, she then stated that if you have all your fingers down, or a lot of them, then you may need to go and get tested for ADHD just to see. And I was like, huh? Women can get ADHD? What? Obviously, because of the ADHD, I went into a fixation of studying it and figuring out that I actually relate to it a lot. And I got the diagnosis just over a year ago. And I have been trying to treat it with medication, but it's been quite difficult. And it all connects to my nervous system, especially if I am dealing with fibromyalgia or something related or similar. It's basically just creates an environment for my nervous system where it's just too much. So basically, I looked into it. I will admit, I put all this information into Google, Gemini, whatever. And every sort of incident that's happened throughout my life, symptom, diagnosis, everything, I put as much as I could put in and remember, sort of thing. And it gave me sort of a generalized understanding of how this path has unfolded for me. So it's like I have a really, really sensitive central nervous system, and I have done since I was a child, likely because I had ADHD back then. So my fight or flight, was always up, 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 up. Then I developed the migraines, which obviously is a central nervous system issue. The reason why I believe that I lost my eyesight was because my body or my brain was done. Like every time it gets too stressed out, it just kind of shuts off because it cannot take any more. Sort of force stop, And the reason for my stomach migraines would probably have been some sort of response to the nervous system, because it is all connected. Then the thing at 18, when my whole body shut down, not just my brain, it was my entire body. Then the brain shocks, then the neuralgia, losing my tooth, or losing that tooth, the illnesses. It all stems from this really sensitive nervous system, or central nervous system. the reason why it is believed that I developed chronic fatigue syndrome is because my body is so tired, constantly being like on this like fight or flight feeling, like tense, that it's like my body hasn't had time or the energy to actually produce the immune system that I need to fight these things off. And because it was kind of getting smashed over and over and over again, it just got to a point where my body just couldn't fight it anymore. And that's why I've now developed chronic fatigue. But my tiredness is more like within my body, because I still struggle with sleeping at night times due to the ADHD, which is why they said that there's sort of like a combined type where, because ADHD makes it really hard for me to sleep anyway, it can kind of make chronic fatigue a lot worse, because obviously you actually need to be able to sleep. But they say that with chronic fatigue sufferers, that even if you have slept, you don't feel like you've slept. But with ADHD, it's a trouble to actually sleep. So I'm never really getting enough to even try to repair my body. It's difficult. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because from my understanding, from what I've looked into, fibromyalgia, I don't want to say chronic fatigue, it can be a what's the word? Brain fart. The side product? Is that the right word? Like, people with fibromyalgia don't always get chronic fatigue, but a lot of people can end up getting it as a I can't remember. Oh God. The brain fog is real, guys. I've lost myself. Okay, right. Let's try this again. Chronic fatigue is something that can come with fibromyalgia, but it doesn't always. But I want to say that, like, the fibromyalgia thing for me, it feels like the cause of my migraines, my neuralgia problem, is all to do with my central nervous system. And so I don't know if that even is fibromyalgia. I don't know if it's actually something different or that is just the basis of fibromyalgia. I don't know. Because obviously what's happened is, because my central nervous system has felt like it's always under attack, it's got to a point where it's actually attacking itself. I think that's what the basis of fibromyalgia means. But I would be curious to know if there's like the whole central nervous system thing, is that actually a separate thing from fibromyalgia? Because if it is, then there might be a different method of treating it. Like, how do I bring that down and what do I do about it? You know, I would be interested if anyone has actually made it this far into the video. If you were dealing with something very similar and you've got some sort of treatment plan, or I don't know, you found something that works for you, then please do leave that in the comments, because I'm open to hearing any method of trying to make this easier. Because I'm going to sort of struggle with using medications because of how sensitive my body is. I just can't handle them. Even when I tried the medication for my trigeminal neuralgia, I used Tegretol, also known as carbamazepine, and I had really, really bad brain shocks. Like, my brain was like, no, get that out. So I couldn't have that. That was dangerous because my daughter was still so young. I couldn't risk me having one of them when I was alone with her. So I don't really have any treatment. I am interested in maybe trying some sort of CBD treatment, but that's expensive. So I kind of need to know if I want to know if people have had positive experiences on it for it to be worth the money. Because I need something. But I don't know if that really made any sense at all. I hope it did. And if it didn't, then just let me know and I'll try and explain it in an easier way. But I'm going to have to go now because that light is triggering a migraine. So I'm going to go, and I will see you all again very soon with another random mind unfiltered video. Yeah, bye.